Good morning. Today is day 4 of our Selfish Cow Challenge. And today is where we probably get into the kind of stuff that most people would describe as self-care. And you've probably seen a million things on social media and you've probably liked them and agreed with them about, how important it is that we engage in self-care. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into what that means and how some of the ways we express it are actually masking our real care for ourselves and who we are. Because remember, I'm kind of redefining this selfish is becoming more self, becoming more you, figuring out who you are, what you really want to do and say and be in the world. And so self-care on the surface is lovely. Do not get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that it isn't completely delightful to, maybe if going to a spa is your thing, or having your nails done or your hair done or meeting up with friends or having coffee, case in point, I love my coffee. I'm not suggesting that those, or maybe having a quiet time reading a book, having a shower on your own. Sorry, that went, I'm thinking, I didn't mean it like that. I was thinking about having a bath with candles, all of those lovely things that we often get drawn to do, or we feel like we'd like to do perhaps. And lots of magazines, online or offline, will suggest those, and spas are so popular. People love going to spas and having afternoon teas, and arguably this is self-care, and it is booming. Everything to do with health and beauty and wellness, arguably wellness, is booming. So on the face of it, we're taking more care of ourselves than ever. Self-care seems to be pretty popular. More people are doing it. But here's where I want to challenge you. So even when it comes, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, even when it comes to our weekends, our evenings, our holidays, we look forward to those, many of us, as if we're just doing the hard slog of the race in order to get to that finishing line, to get that delicious dopamine rush of, hooray, I did it. And we recognize, if we're running or racing in something or playing a game, that there's a lot of hard work involved that increases the pleasure of that finishing line, the end point. So to some extent, it makes sense, that we should look forward to holidays as our rewards and weekends. And again, I'm not decrying this at all, but why not set them up as pleasurable destinations, whether that's something you do at home or something you go and do somewhere else. So all right, so you tell me what you're not doing, but it doesn't sound like you're really telling me anything, Shirley. So here's the thing. If self-care were the answer in the traditional way that you might decide what self-care is for you, and of course your version of self-care is different to mine, is different to somebody else's. To me, it's putting my feet up with a book, pottering in the garden. If self-care in that sense were the answer to feeling more empowered, because to be a selfish cow, or to want to be a selfish cow, we know it's a play on words. We're not going to turn you into some bitch who doesn't care about anybody and rides roughshod over everything. This is more a desire to be seen, to be heard, to stop being walked on by everybody else, overlooked, burdened with all the trivia, all the things that nobody else wants to do, but hey, you end up doing it. That's what being more selfish cow is about. And so these self-care things, if they were the answer, you wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be an issue. You go, oh, I've got the self-care. What do you want about? I don't need some stupid selfish cow challenge. I'm good. And I recognize there are two things. So some of you might be going, yeah, but I don't even get time for that self-care. If only I could have that self-care, then I would be fine. And I get that. So I get that for many of you, you're not even making any time for those small things. So it seems like if only you could do that, then you would be okay. But here's what I want to dive a bit deeper. That kind of self-care is a diversion. In many cases, it's a diversion. Not in every case, but in many cases, it's a diversion. It's a tactic to stop you really looking at what you're doing in life, at how you're experiencing it, at what you're being asked to do, at what you're saying yes to that you really would rather say no to, and distracting you for long enough that you'll carry on and put up with it. It's like, and I'm exaggerate for the purpose of demonstration, but you know, my life is hell, but hey ho, for 10 minutes I did something nice. Okay, I'm back in the fray. I can go back to be the Christian fighting the lions in the arena, which is not really, in my view, how any of us want to live our lives. Sometimes life feels very long, sometimes it feels very short, but my view is, and I suspect yours is, which is why you're here, that life is, you know, if we are consumed with stuff that isn't really lighting us up, isn't really something we care about, isn't making us feel like we're contributing in the way we'd like to contribute, and even if we don't know what that is, we get that sense of hollowness, emptiness. So we know there's something, not quite sure what. And if I use the analogy of that distraction, that we use this kind of self-care, oh, you know, okay, I had a weekend, we managed to get away, and I sat on the beach for a couple of hours and it was delicious and delightful, and now I'm ready, I can go back into the fight. I think of it as when, you know, when we're children and we're upset about something, or, you know, there's something we want that we can't have, and the only tactic the adults around us have to get us to smile again, to stop feeling distraught, bereft, crying, you know, maybe your best friend just moved away to the other side of the world, and you're totally crestfallen and lost. And I know this happened to me a few times, like friends, like one of my only friends, the people I spent every day with, and suddenly they were moving. They were going somewhere else and I wasn't going to see them again. That's crushing and huge. And the adults around you, oh, what do they do? What do they do? They want you to be happy, and they can't give you the thing that you want. And so they give you something else. They maybe take you shopping and they buy you a nice soft toy, or they take you out for an ice cream, or they take you to the beach, or, you know, they want to do something that will distract you from the pain that you're feeling. Now, you might think, well, yeah, but that's real life. Sometimes crap happens, of course it does, and sometimes we just need to, you know, we need those little moments to pick ourselves back up. Yeah, we do. But the thing is, in adult life, what we can do is we replicate that kind of behavior without realizing we're replicating it. It's happening in our subconscious. We just learned, go back to the rules I talked about yesterday, rules that we've created that we don't realize we've created. So we create new rules where, when we're feeling trapped, stuck, struggling with saying no to things, saying yes to too many things that we don't want to be doing, trapped in workplaces or roles that we don't want, feeling the butt of everybody's, like, everybody else is fine, but hey, what about me? Hello, I'm drowning. Anybody noticing me here? When we're in those places, we default to what have I learned? How do I make myself feel better? Default self-care. And you might think, yeah, well, you've just argued that actually that works, but it doesn't, because what that discomfort is telling you as an adult, as a child, you can't do anything about it. But as an adult, you can. As an adult, you want to be enabled to express yourself more freely, to actually go, hang on a minute, hang on, I don't want to be the person who's always doing the thing that nobody else wants to do. I don't want to be the person who's totally relied on to just get the crap done so everybody else can do the amazing stuff. I don't want to be that person. I have needs and wishes and desires and ambitions, and I might not even know what they are. And the reason I don't know what they are is because I keep defaulting to, oh, it's really crap, do some self-care, so that I will anesthetize myself against the pain that I actually feel of not being fully me, of not expressing me and who I am and what I want and figuring that out and getting on a journey that says, woohoo, oh, I'm not sure what's happening next, but I'm quite excited. As you can see, I get a bit passionate about this stuff. So the first few days were a little more grounded. It's about, okay, we've looked at thoughts, mindset, we've considered rules, and now we're diving deeper into rules, and now we're at the nub of what this is about. So where do we go from here then? Self-care is maybe using those moments where you're still in that default mode. Instead of doing the standard things that you might do, go for a cup of tea, meet a friend, ring someone up, indulge something that perhaps you haven't indulged for a long time, or maybe you've never indulged. Start to indulge yourself with maybe childhood ambitions, desires, dreams, pleasures. And that could be on any level, because obviously we're all different. And you might think, well, what do you mean? Where do I start? So for example, I describe this as emotional navigation. And I worked on myself with this for a long time, because I knew I'd used it with clients in the past. But when I was going through menopause, I thought, okay, I was stuck. I like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to do this. And emotional navigation, okay, how does this work? And all I could ever come up with was playing in the garden, you know, like getting my hands dirty in mud, and cross stitch, which I didn't know at the time was called cross stitch because I was a child, and I just knew it was, to me, it was sewing, embroidery. And I'd left that for a long time, and I kept thinking, well, how does that work? Because I lived in a flat, so I didn't have a garden. I couldn't go in the garden and play with the mud. And I didn't think I had any desire for gardening. I thought it was just about making mud pies, because I was very small in this memory. And also I'd grown to convince myself that I hated sewing, but I trusted the process. I thought, okay, I can't do the gardening thing yet, but I held it in the back of my mind. This mud, this was really important. I didn't know where it was going to take me. There was no underpinning plan, and this is important. This is not about a plan. This is about releasing and connecting fresh pathways and lighting up, turning the lights on in rooms that are pretty dark and they haven't been entered for a long time. So I went along to a little knitting class in my local library, and people were very kind and shared with me reminded me how to crochet. And it was just pleasurable time. There was no intention, no destination, but it started to really engage my brain and my body with good feelings. And that's where you start. And self-care in the traditional way doesn't always do that, because it's masking. It's going, no, don't look, it's fine, just pretend it's all fine. This is different. This is, I have no plan here, but it feels good. It's subtle. And I held the mud pie thing in my garden, in my mind. So you plant a seed, pun not intended, but hey ho, it works, doesn't it? You plant a seed and you keep thinking it, and I didn't know where it was going. I still thought, where's this taking you, Shirley? I can't see how this is going to get you out of the mess. But it took a couple of years, so it wasn't instant. But where that took me eventually was that we moved out of the flat and we bought a house in the country, overlooking fields near the river, with a garden. Now the garden has gravel in it, but I have pots everywhere. And so eventually what I was doing was switching something on in my head that was just the first part of my GPS system. It's like, okay, where are we going? Where are we going? Don't know. But the first step is here. Don't know how I'm going to get there. But planting the seed and watering it and feeding it, even when you don't know what it's going to grow into, that's real self-care. That starts to release you. That starts to open up doorways and create opportunities and enable you to begin to consider feeling more bold, begin to consider what you want in your life instead of what everybody else wants. And it isn't about being selfish. It's about figuring out who you are, being more self. I hope that's sparked, even if it's just a tiny little glimmer of hope or light, and even if it's confused you a little, that's fine. Make sure you leave a comment, a message, a question, engage, because if you just think that watching these videos is going to do the trick on its own, you've missed the point. This is a challenge you took on day one, and it's mostly challenging your thoughts, because when you challenge your thoughts, then you can begin to challenge your actions. But you have to follow up with it and you have to engage with it. And it's not even though this is a 5-day challenge, it's not a 5-day job. My intention was to move you forwards. Even if it's just, remember on day one, I talked about that scale of 0 to 10, even if it's just 1 notch or half a notch, if you can move forwards that much in 1 week, imagine what you could do in a month, in 6 months, in a year. Okay, love you lots. Thank you for paying attention, listening, and I will be around at 2 o'clock this afternoon, live, for anyone who's in this community and wants to ask me questions or share or engage. Otherwise, please leave your posts, and I will see you tomorrow on the final day, day 5 of this challenge. Okay, bye.